Imagine living in America in 1958. Outside, the sky was buzzing with the space race. People were talking about the newly launched Explorer 1 satellite, and everything from televisions and refrigerators to automobiles was trying to wear the badge of the future. Yet, there was a strange paradox. While Chrysler rolled out its sleek, futuristic forward-look cars, General Motors, the unbeatable giant, chose another path. They smothered their cars in chrome, making them look more like battleships than spaceships. People would later call it the mistake of 1958. But that very stumble opened the door for a stunning transformation just 1 year later. So what really happened? Why did a powerhouse like GM fall into the chrome trap? And how did they bounce back to create some of the most iconic cars of the entire 1950s? The 1950s were not just a boom time for automobiles. They were also an era of an intense styling war between American car makers. In the early years, designs were still rounded, tidy, and restrained in decoration. But as the space age accelerated, cars became canvases for wild imagination. Tail fins soared sky-high. Details mimicked rockets, airplane wings, and even radar equipment. This was also the age when futuristic-sounding names became powerful marketing tools. A car could be sold with a panorama windshield, an electronic eye, automatic headlight dimmer, a teletouch transmission, or a speed alert warning buzzer. These features weren't always practical, but they made drivers feel as if they were stepping into tomorrow. The man orchestrating much of this was Harley Earl, head of GM's styling department. He wasn't just a designer. He turned styling into a sales weapon. Earl introduced methods unheard of at the time: freehand sketching, clay modeling, and most importantly, the world's first concept car, the 1938 Buick Yaub, to captivate public attention. By the mid-1950s, Harley Earl's authority within GM was absolute. He could elevate an idea into production or kill a project with a single nod or shake of his head. Though dozens of talented designers like Chuck Jordan and Bill Mitchell contributed, every design had to pass through the gatekeeper named Harley Earl. He shaped America's taste in cars, and it was his vision that would soon push GM into one of the most pivotal turning points in automotive design history. One afternoon in 1956, Chuck Jordan, a young GM designer, decided to stroll around Detroit. Curious, he wandered over to the Chrysler plant, a company still considered the weakling of the American auto industry. Expecting little, perhaps even something to mock, he peered through a chain-link fence into the test lot. What he saw left him stunned. These weren't the clunky sedans he anticipated. They were the all-new 1957 Plymouths crafted under Virgil Exner's direction. They were lower, longer, and looked like they had stepped straight out of a science fiction film. The airy greenhouse, bold bumpers, sharp dual headlights, and especially the soaring tail fins made the Plymouth resemble a spaceship rather than a mid-priced car. More importantly, they looked far more expensive than their price tag suggested. Chuck rushed back to GM to alert his colleagues and Bill Mitchell, the design department's second-in-command. Soon after, the team drove over to Chrysler themselves, and disbelief set in. Exner's forward look made GM's upcoming designs look heavy and outdated overnight. This shock was more than an aesthetic issue. It was a warning shot that GM could lose its throne if it didn't adapt. With the 1958 models already locked in and the 1959 still in progress, Jordan's discovery was a blaring alarm bell. The rival once ridiculed had suddenly leaped ahead in the styling war. While Virgil Exner at Chrysler pursued sleek, aerodynamic, and futuristic designs, Harley Earl believed in an entirely different philosophy. To him, an expensive car had to look expensive, and the fastest way to show that was chrome. For Earl, chrome was not just decoration. It was a symbol of power. A Cadillac dripping in chrome would immediately project luxury and superiority over plainer rivals. Earl also insisted that American cars should appear solid and fortress-like, as if they were rolling monuments of strength. As a result, he often dismissed slender sketches in favor of heavy proportions, layered ornamentation, and elaborate detailing. In his eyes, that excess was the very language of success. But this philosophy came with rigidity. Every design had to pass through Earl's approval, and since he believed the more chrome, the better, younger designers had little chance to push alternative visions. This locked GM into a direction directly opposed to the fresh path Chrysler had unveiled. By the late 1950s, Harley Earl's more chrome equals more prestige philosophy no longer matched public taste. Buyers were increasingly drawn to cars that looked lower, lighter, and futuristic. Yet, by 1958, it was too late to pivot. GM's lineup hit the market with bulky proportions, overloaded details, and chrome so excessive it drowned out the fundamentals of design. At the entry level, the 1958 Chevrolet managed some restraint. Its egg crate grille and dual headlights were modest highlights, while the rounded rear with small circular taillights gave it a cleaner look, more acceptable than its corporate siblings. The 1958 Pontiac was bolder, carrying a stylized rocket motif along its side and 4 round tail lights inspired by jet afterburners. The concept was fun, but visually heavy, failing to strike true harmony. Clutter was most obvious on the 1958 Oldsmobile. 3 horizontal chrome strips cut across its flanks without any relation to body lines, creating a sense of excess. Its vertical tail lights, framed in bright metal, earned it the nickname Chrome Mobile, a label that perfectly captured public disappointment. The worst offender was the 1958 Buick Limited. Its Fashion Air Dinner Star grille resembled a wall of chrome squares flanked by 15 side hash marks and tail lights nearly lost under layers of trim. Buick aimed for luxury, but ended up as the poster child for overindulgence. Even the 1958 Cadillac, long the standard of flamboyance, stumbled. Though less flashy than Buick, its wandering belt line dipped and rose unpredictably, undermining the fluid elegance that once defined Cadillac. Set against Chrysler's sleek, forward look, GM's 1958 cars resembled steel fortresses, hardly the spacecraft buyers wanted. And that very failure leads us to a deeper issue: the trap of the product cycle that GM had locked itself into. In the 1950s, American automakers followed a predictable rhythm: 3-year cycles. A single body shell would remain, while sheet metal and trim were refreshed yearly to give the illusion of novelty. This strategy kept costs in check and production steady, but it also shackled companies, leaving them unable to pivot when public taste shifted suddenly. In 1958, GM had just introduced the new X-frame across its full-size lineup. Technically, it was a breakthrough: lower floors, greater rigidity, and the potential for sleeker proportions. Yet the bodies draped over it carried Harley Earl's outdated philosophy, overloaded with chrome and ponderous lines. As a result, customers overlooked the engineering advance and saw only cars that looked clumsy the moment they arrived in showrooms. To overhaul the design after just 1 year was nearly impossible. The expense was enormous, development time unfeasible, and the manufacturing system inflexible. GM was forced to live with the 1958 appearance for at least 1 cycle, even as the market moved away. Bill Mitchell, the energetic deputy with a vision opposite to Harley ears, knew that if GM continued down the chrome-laden path, it would fall behind. So when Earl was away on a business trip, Mitchell urged the younger designers to try something daring: create entirely new proposals for the 1959 lineup. Even though the direction had already been locked, it was an underground rebellion. Chuck Jordan and his colleagues threw themselves into sketches and clay models with unprecedented passion. They experimented with everything: stacked headlights, split grills, tail fins stretching far beyond the rear, sweeping horizontal lines that made cars look longer and lower. Pontiac toyed with the idea of a split grille. Buick even tested 3 fins at once, while Chevrolet explored broad horizontal themes that gave a fresh sense of width. The studio buzzed with creativity. For the first time, they were sketching without Earl's critical eye over their shoulders. And the more they drew, the clearer it became. To outshine Chrysler, GM had to do the opposite: shed the bulk, abandon the clutter, and embrace clean, bold lines. When Harley Earl finally returned, the room was filled with sketches and clay models. He walked in silent, studying them carefully. The team held its breath, and then the unexpected happened. Instead of rejecting the work, Earl simply said, "Continue." With that nod, the creative floodgates opened. In less than 2 years, those daring studio sketches became the 1959 lineup, one of the most dramatic turnarounds in GM's design history. The 1959 Chevrolet stunned the market. Its wide batwing rear spread out like giant wings paired with distinctive oval cat-eye tail lights. For the first time, a mass market carried such radical styling that it instantly became an icon. The 1959 Pontiac entered a new era with its split grille. Born during the silent coup and launched the slogan, "Wide Track." This wasn't just marketing hype. The wider stance genuinely improved handling and stability. The look and the slogan together defined Pontiac's identity for the next 2 decades. The 1959 Oldsmobile chose restraint. Its integrated headlight units and simplified grille demonstrated that modernity could be achieved without piling on endless chrome. It was a lesson well learned from the missteps of 1958. The 1959 Buick embraced aerodynamics. Its aggressive front end and diagonal tail fins gave it a bold, unique presence that broke away from the bulk of the previous year. Buick showed that luxury could coexist with daring design. And finally, the 1959 Cadillac, the car that defined an era. With the tallest tail fins ever fitted to a production car and twin bullet-shaped tail lights, Cadillac became not just a symbol of extravagance, but an enduring cultural icon immortalized in film, art, and memory. The success of 1959 was more than a comeback. It reset the standard for the entire American auto industry. From being mocked for its chrome battleships in 1958, GM transformed overnight into the leader of styling innovation. Consumers hungry for a modern image flocked to showrooms, and the sales figures of 1959 reflected that revival. More importantly, 1959 forged a cultural legacy. Chevrolet's Batwing became an enduring image in American memory, appearing on posters, in films, and at today's classic car shows. Pontiac's wide track slogan tied the brand to performance for more than 2 decades, carving out a distinct identity. The 1959 Cadillac, with its towering fins and bullet-tail lights, transcended automobiles to become a pop culture icon. Immortalized in rock music, pop art, and collective nostalgia, competitors could not ignore the impact. Chrysler, the pioneer of 1957, now had to scramble to keep up. Ford, too, revised its design language, embracing wider stances and lower profiles. In effect, GM's 1959 lineup set the tone for American cars throughout the 1960s. Perhaps the greatest irony is this: without the stumble of 1958, there would have been no brilliance of 1959. Failure became the catalyst for reinvention, leaving behind a legacy still celebrated today. And from that legacy, we can see how GM's story continued, etched not only on the highways, but also in the cultural memory of America. The story of GM in 1958 and 1959 proves a timeless truth. Sometimes failure lays the foundation for brilliance. Without the bulky chrome mobiles of 1958, we might never have seen the legendary 1959 lineup, Chevrolet's Batwing, Pontiac's wide track, or Cadillac's towering fins. Mistakes forced reinvention. And that reinvention became one of the brightest chapters in American automotive history. But what about you? Would you choose the heavy chrome-laden look of 1958 or the bold futuristic spirit of 1959? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your memories and perspectives make this story even richer. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Stay with us as we continue uncovering the hidden secrets of classic American cars.